TaxAct knows filing your small business taxes can be a nightmare, like the kind where you're being chased by a giant W-2 form and you're running and running, but you can never reach the submit button. Or something like that. So, TaxAct offers Expert Assist with live tax experts to make filing taxes less scary. Now, you can just have pleasant dreams about being chased by other giant, non-threatening paperwork. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Today on CityCast Denver, Senate Democrats introduced 2 bills to expand protections for trans people, and in particular, trans kids. Some members of the GOP were not happy and took to social media claiming, quote, extremists were coming to, quote, take your kids. Then April Fool's Day jokes posted by everyone from the governor to DIA got some laughs, but which ones really got the internet rage machine going? We're digging into these stories, plus our wins and fails of the week. Oh, and just a content warning. We use a little bit of explicit language in this episode. Today is Friday, April 4th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Welcome to CityCast Denver, the show about the city where increased public safety means horses on the mall. Olivia, what did you think about this big announcement this week that Mayor Mike made as part of this increased patrols they're doing downtown, police officers on bicycles, walking around, and on horse?
I think this is probably a huge win for the horse girls out there.
True.
You don't get to see horses a lot in Denver. But yeah, I've got some thoughts on the poop situation.
I was thinking that too. I was like, Do Better Denver must be stoked that there's an increased patrol because they love police. But I wonder if they feel
how are they going to ID that poop? How do they know?
Yeah.
How do you know? You know it for Will. So
Lucas, are you a horse girl?
I can't say I'm a full-fledged horse girl, but I like a horse.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about the poop thing, and that's a real issue.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll wear little diaper, little horse diaper,
poop collectors.
A bag.
I mean, it's not like you can do what you do with a dog.
Isn't that what they do?
Right.
Isn't that what they do on the carriage horses? Don't they have little poop sacks?
It's notoriously well cared for carriage horses.
I think there's
Central Park.
There's something just so poetic about the police riding a horse with a poop sack on the back. It's just, I love it.
These are the things we want to know about.
We do need to know what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
True.
Where are we putting that?
I bet we could ask the mayor.
I'll
go ask him next time. Well, it's Friday. We are in the brand new Dude IDK Studios, and are we technically in beautiful 5 Points, like the heart of it? I believe so. I love it. We're in a new space. I'm host Bree Davies. I always forget I have to introduce myself now. I'm with producer Olivia Jewel Love.
Hello.
And then we're also joined by a first-time guest. He's a government and politics reporter at KUNC. And thanks to the Colorado Capital News Alliance, you can also read his work via Colorado Sun and CPR. Lucas Brady Woods, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you here. Before we get started, we have a little bit of business. Gardening season is upon us, and we've got our local dirt and plant expert, Anne Maria Wad, on hand to answer all of your gardening questions. So tell us what you want to know. Call us or text us on the CityCast Denver Gardening Hose hotline, 720-500-5418, and leave us your questions. Seriously. Anne Marie's social media is already full of gardening gossip, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
So Anne Marie's ready.
Never too early to start.
Give us a call. Shoot us a text, 720-500-5418. Okay, top story. Democrats want to expand protections for trans folks of all ages. Lucas, this is your beat, the State House. Can you talk a little bit about legislation that was brought up for consideration this week on Monday, Trans Day of Visibility?
That's right. Exactly. I was going to say Trans Day of Visibility was Monday, and they introduced a couple pieces of legislation actually on Friday, but that was really time to sort of move forward with the Day of Visibility. These two pieces of legislation, they build on work that the legislature's done in the last couple of years to add protections for trans people in Colorado. One of the biggest ones was a law that protects providers who provide gender affirming care to people who come from out of state to get it, protections from out of state prosecution and investigation. And these sort of build on some of those efforts, right? One of them would make it a state law that insurance companies have to cover gender affirming care when it's deemed medically necessary by a doctor, which I think if a doctor says, if someone's getting gender affirming care, it's usually deemed medically necessary.
Yes.
Saying otherwise is just not accurate.
I just think about this and like, I got a hip replacement and I can't imagine having to be like shielded from the law to get something done that my doctor said was medically necessary.
Exactly. It's healthcare.
Right.
Right. So one of these bills would put that into state law. It's actually already a directive from the health department that they have to cover it. But, that's administrative and could be easily overturned or removed. So putting it into state law, with the changing federal government and, all these efforts from out of state, they really want to make it so it's hard to change that here and prevent people from getting that. So that's one of the big measures.
Yeah. And I do think that sort of is in line with, like, we kind of saw this with abortion access as well.
Totally.
Right. Olivia, you remember this? Not too long ago, Colorado codified it in our state constitution the same way to make sure that access is ensured.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It seems like they're getting out ahead of things, trying to make sure we have these state protections, depending on what happens with the national administration.
Exactly. They did... I think same-sex marriage was codified on the ballot just in the fall. So it's the same idea here, making sure that this is hard to change. And the other bill actually is not as focused. It has a sort of a whole bunch of protections in it. And those deal with schools and the courts. It would add protections for parents who allow their kids to get gender-affirming care or I believe who have gone through gender-affirming care themselves. It would protect them from having that used against them in custody hearings.
Sure.
For
discrimination.
Yes, exactly. And for deciding, whether a parent should be with a child, that kind of thing.
This is interesting, too, because I think this is more about the social constructs and concerns, I guess, around.
I mean, there are concerns. It is legitimate to say there are concerns.
There are concerns, I think, for the safety of the trans community.
Yeah.
If anything, like, this is protecting folks. And also, I'm just thinking about, I talk to a parent pretty regularly who's a listener and who's a parent of a trans kid. And she's explained to me just how much, like, she has to do to protect her child from other people's, just like, it's feeling like a little bit vague, but it's more just like, how do we protect kids and parents who are in these situations where, like, they just want their kid to be able to live as themselves and not have other people interfering in that.
It seems like, honestly, kind of watching a lot of this unfold on the internet is like, kids are one of the biggest, like, factors in this argument of transgender care. And it's kind of weird. And, like, I'm just seeing a lot on the like parental rights kind of side of things. And so, like, I don't know, I'm curious, Lucas, kind of about the reactions from the right and some of those more like parental rights people.
Absolutely. And I think this is really interesting to get into. And it's very nuanced, right? Look, trans kids face mental health issues and violence and discrimination at levels that very few people face.
Statistically, we know this.
And they have elevated rates of suicide and attempted suicide because of that. There's reporting from the CDC from October that says that a full 1/4 of transgender high school students attempted suicide or had suicide ideation in the last year. So it's a really big problem. And you're absolutely right. There are huge concerns about that. But I was talking to Jax Gonzalez with One Colorado at the state capitol on Monday, and they were talking about how Colorado has some of the most robust protections for trans people in the country, like truly. And yet there is polling that shows that 60% of both Democrats and Republicans and unaffiliateds have concerns about trans kids participating in girls' sports. And this is a trend across the country. So there is a disconnect here. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the concerns on that side, is that there is a disconnect here. And one thing that I got into with Jax was, a lot of people say, look, there are very few trans people, very few trans kids.
I know this is something we talk about every time an issue around the trans community comes up, is like, it's such a tiny sliver of the population.
It is. It's very small.
But we're so interested in legislating it.
Right. And so my question for Jax was like, well, how do we balance this? Like, how much do we need to keep speaking out for this community or worry about putting a target on this community? And unequivocally, Jack's answer was, no, we have to keep speaking out for this community, because you have to think about the kids that are thinking about killing themselves.
Yeah.
And, Jax put it this way: they are the trans person they needed when they were 16
Yeah.
and dropped out of high school.
Right.
So having this Trans Day of Visibility, these legislators stand up for it, is as much about showing young people that there's a happy, healthy life ahead of them as it is about the protections, I think.
I think a lot of it too is just about education.
Yes.
And understanding. It's not like you need to meet a trans person, but like if there aren't trans folks in your family, that you interact with or in your community that it's really easy to make assumptions about what their experience is in the world.
Yes.
And I just think that a huge part of this is just educating folks. And it does remind me a lot of the fights that LGBTQ folks have been going through, for a long, long time in this country, at least, 100 years, but that lack of education. And I kind of wanted to talk about that too. This reminds me a little bit, as I've been thinking a lot about Amendment 2 here in Colorado, which was passed in 1992. And this basically did the opposite of what legislators are trying to do right now in protecting trans folks. Amendment 2 was trying to remove protections for gay folks, like saying that folks who are queer can be discriminated against in their jobs, can be discriminated against maybe in a child care situation. And this happened in 1992 in Colorado, and it gained the moniker the hate state.
Exactly. I was going to say.
I heard footage of Barbara Streisand coming out and saying boycott Colorado.
Wow.
This didn't only make national headlines, it had national repercussions for Colorado. And it just made me think a little bit about, it wasn't so long ago that we were there with folks believing propaganda about queer people, because that was a big part of this. Is we joke about the gay agenda. The gay agenda was actually a piece of propaganda film that was spread around in advance of this bill that definitely helped to get it passed. And it took 4 years to get it undone. But in those 4 years, I was only 12. I cannot imagine how queer folks were feeling in Colorado at that time.
Yeah.
I remember there's actually a great KUNC series,
yes,
The Colorado Dream, and they do a whole season on the hate state. We'll put a link to it. This was so helpful. If you don't know anything about this situation, it was so helpful. But one of the folks that they talked to is this woman who's an archivist who's just started documenting this situation in the moment because she knew this is serious.
Yeah.
But she said after that vote the next day, I was sitting in my car and I looked to both sides of me and I thought, did you vote for that? Did you vote for that? And it instills this like fear and paranoia in people. And I'm thinking about that right now as like, we've switched now.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's interesting with the like propaganda piece you're talking about. I feel like we're seeing that a lot on like TikTok, social media, X, people are really trying to kind of fearmonger the situation. Like, I see so much of this, like, especially around this kind of conversation of trans youth. People are, calling it grooming. They're calling it child abuse. And they're saying that, these protections in the law are going to take away your rights as a parent to decide what happens to your child. And I think, a lot of it goes back to, like, kind of the mentality people have around their children. And, like, is this an autonomous person or is this somebody that I control kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's like, this is the conversation I'm seeing, like years ago when we see this stuff with like about like spanking in school and stuff, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, I choose what to do with or to my child behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't want the government interacting with that. And it's very interesting to see the kind of divide of people viewing their children.
Yeah, I will say, as far as we have come as a state, I think it is important to understand that there are a lot of forces in the state, a lot of interests in the state that are fighting against this.
Yes.
And are getting a lot of support from out of state, a lot of money. And
which is the same thing that happened with Amendment 2.
Right.
That was outside influence
exactly
on, I believe, the evangelical community here to get them riled up and interested. But that money started coming from out of state. So it's interesting. The same thing is happening here in opposition.
Very interesting. I mean, and on both sides, right? And I think I was talking with, again, with Jax from One Colorado, and they were saying that there's likely going to be a ballot measure in 2026 looking to ban trans kids from participating in girls' sports. And that came with, a big flag that this is still a strong force in Colorado, and there is still a long way to go, especially for, you know, those kids that may be trans or LGBTQ in general that are in parts of the state with families that, you know, they may not even be exposed to what's happening at the state house or in other parts of the state, and they may not even be able to see this. So, you know, still thinking about those kids that aren't being reached in huge swaths of the state. You know?
Yeah, and I think that's where the education component is going to come in advance of
Very important.
legislation like that is folks truly understanding the situation.
I feel like so much of this like kind of modern conversation around this is like a lot of it seems like a lot of like about the pressure and like we put on children, you know, like the new kind of era of like children's sports. You know, it's the kind of point of a children's sport, at least in my experience, is to learn how to like work together with a team and like be a part of something and like learn something and try something new. But now like there's all of these new like, you know, premier leagues and like really important stuff where you can like win money and fame and get college scholarships. And there's so much riding on an 8-year-old playing soccer now that it's not just about like the learning of, you know, how to be a team player, but it's about like
pressure.
It's this crazy pressure. And I think that's where so much of this must come from, because it's like, you know, the era of like child influencers and all that. It's like these kids have jobs now, you know, it's like you're playing Pee Wee soccer, but you're working to get a college scholarship because your dad said, you work hard and you're going to get a full ride to college. Yeah. It's so much pressure to put on a child.
So much. And parents take it so seriously. And I think that's where a lot of this attention on trans kids in sports, you know, it comes from.
Yeah, definitely. I think about my best friend has 4 boys, and you know, one year it was dirt biking. They were really into dirt biking, and they were doing like, you know, they were like going to competitions and stuff. But then next year it was wrestling, and the next year it was baseball, and this year it's track. And I just was like, oh,
maybe it's gotten a little cheaper over the years.
But I was just like, oh, the boys aren't interested in dirt biking anymore. And she goes, no. And I wasn't going to make them do something they didn't want to do.
I feel like that's the fun of being a child.
Yeah,
you know, getting to try stuff.
They tell me what they want to try, and I let them try it. And if they want to keep going or they want to get more serious about it, then I'll invest in that. But I'm not going to make them do something, you know, for these reasons of like the pressure of it. And I'm thinking, I'm a parent, and I think a lot about this conversation you were kind of just talking about, Olivia, about bodily autonomy with kids and how much parents have control or don't.
I feel like that's what it boils down to.
For me, it's a constant negotiation. Like we have this book called Yes, No, a book about consent. And it's about, it's about body safety, basically. But there's a part in it that says sometimes my grownups that take care of me do things that I don't really want to do. Like they give me a bath or they take me to the doctor and I have to get a shot. And it's kind of about like, yes, your parents do have these obligations to do things for you to keep you safe, but there's this balance of also letting kids do things for themselves and figure things out for themselves. And I'm just thinking about the trans aspect and just the gender conversation in general. Stuff is so gendered for kids, you guys. Like I went looking for Polly Pockets for my son to play with because they're like perfect and compact and we can take them on the airplane.
Love a Polly Pocket.
And they don't have any that have,
they're pretty great.
There's like none with boys in them.
Oh, interesting.
But I didn't,
Paul
I was like,
Pocket?
There's no Paul Pocket in there.
Why don't we have a Polly Pocket?
Sounds like a great idea.
I thought, you know what? If it bothers him, we'll talk about it. But no, he doesn't care. So he has like 5 Polly Pockets. They all have girls in them and they all are very like girl coded colors. And he doesn't care. He's only 3 though, too. Cool. And I think about the moment when some kid might say to him, you have girly toys.
Yeah, kids like what they like until somebody tells them they shouldn't, you know?
You know some kid's going to say that.
I know. I'm just dreading the day that like...
That means you're going to get some new Polly Pockets.
But I want him to be able, you know, it's like you can try all you can as a parent to control these things, but kids are going to do what kids are going to do.
Yes. Yeah. That's always something important to remember.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, April Fool's Day. Bops or flops? This episode is brought to you by Bookshop.org. Whether you're searching for an incisive book that helps you make sense of this moment, a novel that sweeps you away, or a perfect spring break read, Bookshop.org has you covered. When you shop at Bookshop.org, you can choose an independent bookstore right here in Denver to support directly with your purchase. Just pick your fave. Feel good about buying books online with bookshop.org. You'll know that your money is supporting your local community, and you'll be helping indie bookstores continue to foster culture, curiosity, and a love of reading for generations to come. Use code CityCast now to get 15% off your next order at bookshop.org. Well, I have been reading the Kathleen Hanna autobiography, and the section about her relationship with Kurt Cobain was like so sweet and so poignant. It just like made me so happy. I didn't hear the whole story of their friendship before that book, and it was really lovely to read. But it is a really sad book, and I'm having to read it in sections because it's brutal. But it's beautiful. And check our show notes to find bookshop.org's bookstore map, and don't forget the code CityCast for a bangin' discount. Just waiting to get to the part where she marries Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys. Amazing. This episode is brought to you by CAP Management. CAP Management helps HOAs plan sustainability projects and comply with Energize Denver, which is the city's program for making buildings more energy efficient. CAP has helped some 50 Denver HOAs reduce energy and water consumption, saving associations money and helping them avoid financial penalties. For listeners who own in or sit on the board of an HOA, CAP invites you to attend their upcoming HOA Earth Day sustainability event in downtown Denver on April 22nd. This free in-person event provides one-on-one access to HOA sustainability experts, education around the Energized Denver Ordinance, and a forum to meet and share ideas with other homeowners. Drinks and food provided. I was also just thinking about my mom and her HOA. They got chargers put in at their building for electric cars. They got a whole section of them, and it was because she joined with her HOA to make it happen. So to learn more, visit hoaearthday.eventbrite.com. That's hoaearthday.eventbrite.com. Okay, we're back. April Fool's Day was earlier this week, and social media accounts for public officials, city and state agencies, and municipalities really love to take advantage of this holiday online. And I think we're going to look at a couple of these, or talk about a couple of these, and decide if their pranks were awesome or just totally flopped. Olivia, what'd you find first?
I don't know. I got to pull up the first one, the Jared Polis prank.
Oh,
this
God.
man loves a stunt.
He's posted.
He's online.
He's
yeah.
He is
very
online. And he's also not afraid to land it or not. He's like, whatever, I'm sending it.
I think that's why it works.
That's why it worked. This one, I will give him. I haven't been a fan of a lot of his
internet
antics.
work?
I think sometimes they're cringe.
they are.
That's just what
but I think that's on brand for him.
It's on brand.
Describe his post.
I'll read the text from it. It's probably on multiple things, but I saw it on X. So, no one likes an unflattering photo or painting of themselves, which is why I went in a different direction for my official portrait. I've always been proud to support Colorado art, and this portrait was an exciting opportunity to do exactly that while embedding my image into the fabric of Colorado's history. I'm proud of the final product and want to thank the artists for their artistic vision, and personally feel like I have never looked better. And the portrait is the South Park drawing of him that the South Park guys drew. And then he's taken the picture and cropped it into one of the frames in the Capitol.
And this is, of course, a reference to
The Trump
President
portrait,
Trump.
yes.
Trump portrait.
Very upset about his portrait 6 years after.
Literally
it was
directly
hung up.
adding Jared Polis. Might I add? He was like, the terrible liberal governor, terrible liberal
Polis
governor.
had nothing to do.
And
I don't
so-
even-
No,
yeah,
he
he's
had
been in
nothing to do with
office.
it.
I think Polis did a great clapback here. This was funny. This was on the moment.
I do too.
I think it was
I'm gonna give it to him.
tasteful.
I think
Yeah, it was.
You know?
It was like the right kind of. It was.
Yeah.
It was truly a prank, and also we know that he loves the South Park guys. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
So
like to me,
obsessed.
it's very
I
on
love that.
brand.
Yeah, and it's Colorado,
I
South
thought it was
Park.
good.
It's,
Yeah.
it's patriotic to the state. I will say, pretty funny. So I get that's an email, right? Press release.
It was in a press release.
Yes, this was in a press
Oh,
release. By the
no.
way, this was in a press release that we got,
Okay.
And
and it didn't say
Okay.
April Fool's till the very end. So I get a response from my editor saying, "Hey, can we get some copy on this?"
You're
Because he
like,
did not
"Hey,
realize it was a
editor,
joke.
check the calendar.
I was like, "Can you scroll
I saw
down?"
so many people getting fooled. I saw
I know.
so many people
This
getting
is where
fooled.
the internet outrage machine is really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because if people flip out on April Fool's Day, you're like, oh, you really will go for anything. Anything is bait.
Also, you could still delete your comment, if you freak out and you're like, oh my God. And then you realize, you look at the calendar, there is a delete button.
There
True.
is.
I
There
will-
is.
I
And
will
people
say that.
sometimes should use it more.
I think, there's no
I'm just a fan of never posting, personally. That's
Lurk.
my new
Lurk forever.
I'm a
Yeah,
lurker.
I'm more of a
voyeur
lurker
forever.
too. I
Yeah.
feel feel forced to post sometimes, but I'm much more of a lurker myself.
Yeah. Well,
Lurkers
another
forever.
one. Another one.
Polis is not.
No, that man he is creating the narrative, honey. But yeah, no, I'll give him this one. I like
He's
this
in
one.
did you call him a gay villain? Did you say he was in his gay villain era?
No, he said that. He literally said that. Who did he call a gay villain on Twitter?
I don't remember
George
this one.
Santos?
Probably.
Wow.
He does.
That's
he stays with the
hilarious.
He
times.
leans in.
He
Yeah.
leans in.
He
And
leans
you know
in.
what? We're going to give him this one.
Yeah. Okay. Next one.
Another one I saw was from the city and county of Denver. The text on it is, "We're known for our blue statues, so we figured why not go all in? This year, Red Rocks is out and the iconic Blue Rocks is in. The music venue was recently covered in an eco-friendly dye to give it its vibrant new look." And I think,
How do you feel like this one hit?
okay, the eco-friendly dye is like the perfect
I think it's a nice touch.
detail in this.
That kind of sold it for me. I had to look at this two
So many
times
people
because I
fell
was
for
like, wait a
this.
second.
So
It was a good.
But the image looks fake.
Yes.
well, yeah. But I saw a lot of people fall for this. I saw somebody.
Really?
Yeah, like I saw somebody who didn't fall for it, and they were kind of like trying to make a joke. They're like, haha, now that the rocks are blue like the state, and they're gonna start, taking all our money and
Oh my
stuff.
gosh.
And then people started commenting. They're like, I'm gonna boycott Red Rocks, and it was like, ooh. And then the original poster was like, that was like actually an April Fool's joke that they did. So, and I was just playing on it, but go off, I guess.
I mean, Red Rocks won't miss you. It's
Blue
doing
Rocks.
just fine.
Also, like the amount of work that would go into painting that rock, people would have noticed that this
I
was
mean,
happening.
I will say though, in the scheme of Denver's dumb ideas,
I
I could
could see
see
it.
this absolutely being something that was pitched at some point, because I could see if I could see this being a,
Yeah.
you know what we're gonna do, guys?
Especially the fact that they're like eco-friendly dye. So people are like, okay, like I guess it's eco-friendly. You're not spray painting it, so it'll be okay.
Dumping it out of a helicopter onto
Oh my
it or
god, yeah,
something.
like the fire retardant
that's
dropping
that's what I was
helicopters
thinking.
onto Red Rocks. I love that. Well, in a similar vein, the mayor, Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, got in on it too because he got jokes. Mike's
Mayor.
got
It
jokes.
does.
I saw this on his Instagram. Denver to study moving iconic public art indoors for preservation. After years of braving Colorado's unpredictable weather, city officials have launched a study to explore relocating two of Denver's most beloved public art pieces, Mustang and I See What You Mean, aka the Big Blue Bear, indoors for preservation. And so he's got a long press release with some quotes and stuff about it. And then they've got some pictures on it of the Big Blue Bear. And
Inside the convention center.
yeah,
And
they've got early proposals include moving the Big Blue Bear directly inside the Colorado Convention Center so it can finally see what's going on, which you guys know it looks in, and relocating the Mustang inside of DIA where it can greet visitors in your baggage claim. And a final decision is expected by April 1st, 2026.
did people fall for this?
I feel like that's like too specific. I feel like this is
There's
like
too much detail.
there's too much detail and it's not so far fetched that I
Yeah.
feel like that people probably fell for
People
this one.
probably fell for it, but I could also see like people immediately getting mad.
100%.
Again, I think this is just that internet problem.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah.
It's like
This is where
I want to
rage-
get mad
rage-
at something.
I love the detail of the bear going in so he can finally see what's inside. That's so funny.
Yeah, that's nice.
The Mustang inside is like people could finally have their photo ops with it. So I think
It's true. It is really in an
you can't really
it's
get
in
to it
an
that
unfortunate
easy.
location, and that folks cannot take
kind
photos.
of like
with
that
it.
about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Untouchable.
Yeah.
That's probably why it still looks so good, frankly.
Yeah.
But I got to keep going because this
Yeah,
one
Oh,
literally
please.
goes right off it. This one is from DIA, DEN, whatever you might say. They have a job posting for Mustang handler from April 1st. Annual salary from 60 to 85K, depending on experience. 140 hours of PTO earned within the first year, plus 11 paid holidays, 1 personal holiday, 1 wellness day, and 1 volunteer day per year. It's got a lot of benefits. I'll give them that.
Like, oh, this makes me want to put it up against their job listings for real jobs.
Yeah,
So-
I feel like that could be a dangerous risk on their part.
As they call themselves, DEN is looking to hire a Mustang handler who will be tasked with keeping our blue horse in pristine condition. From maintaining his signature sparkling blue shine to ensuring his glowing red eyes are always at their brightest, we're looking for a multi-talented individual willing to commit time and effort to ensure Mustang's self-care routine is always being followed.
Lord.
The ideal candidate is comfortable working outdoors in all weather conditions and can work weekends and after hours. A uniform will be provided.
There has to be a person that already does this.
Yeah, again, very specific, and also
Yeah.
like a lot
This
of
is
work
his
went into
personal
this.
assistant. This is Lucifer's personal assistant. You can't tell me
Oh.
otherwise.
Ugh.
But this job listing, it's like a real job listing. It's
Yeah,
got
very
it's
much
got
so.
all the salary range. It's got
60,000.
skills.
We're
Yeah.
sure this is an April Fool's joke,
I
right?
mean,
It's got a real URL. So
Wow,
apply. And if you
I
get
might.
that job, come on the show.
I will.
Let us know.
We need to know.
let us know.
But yeah, that one I liked that one.
Not
I
sure I'm
think
qualified.
I feel like the
I was going
job.
to say, Lucas, do you want to go for it?
I don't know if I'm qualified. I've
I
never,
know,
I've never
it
been a
sounds-
handler
Second
for.
career.
It
Yeah.
also sounds like there's probably going to be a lot of competition. So
Yeah.
but I love the job listing. It looked real, and also in this economy, I'm like, it's kind of
True.
mean to play with people with like a $60K start. It's like, damn, like people are desperate out here. Like you're really gonna be like, haha, funny joke job starting at $60K. It's like, damn, you got my hopes up. Wow, yikes.
Yeah, so far I think Polis has been the best at this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, I've got an honorable mention
Okay.
for our friend Valdemar Archuleta, who ran against Diana DeGette. He had a tweet or an X or whatever you want to call it. Colorado Democrats are introducing a bill today at the Capitol that will make Colorado citizens safer, punish criminals, and encourage the growth of business. ... April Fools.
Someone did not understand the assignment.
As a politics nerd, I kind of like it.
Really? I was like, I feel like it's missing the joke, the fun. There's no like fun. It's more just like Democrats are stupid.
I know that's
It
kind of.
was. And that's
It's
why
pretty
like,
basic. It's kind
so,
of
like, oh, got him.
yeah, exactly.
It
That's
feels
kind of
very
why.
like, meh.
It's like I saw that whale facts account on Twitter, and it was like, whales are small. Haha, JK April Fools. Whales are big. And I was like, yeah, that's the same energy right here.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Not buying it.
Hey, if you need to explain it too much,
It's true.
True, it
You
was
know?
simple. It was. We'll give him it. We'll give him.
Yeah, that's true.
It was simple, and he revealed it very quickly.
He
though.
fired that off and he was like,
He was like, "There's a banger
This is
tweet,"
gonna be so
but
good.
I mean,
the April Fools right after he should have put it in the thread.
Yeah.
let him
let people
let him stew for a bit.
Yeah.
Get some controversy
Exactly.
going. Make him actually think like, oh my God, Valdemar, what?
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 I mean, there were some really boring ones at the,
Yeah,
at
give
the
us-
Capitol. I will say,
yeah, give
like,
us some. Give
like
us
the
some.
House and the Senate, they like print out their calendars
Yeah.
and like they have dedicated colors for each one.
Yeah.
They switch the colors.
No.
That was it.
My tax dollars are going to colored ink,
Oh my god.
No colored paper.
colored paper.
Yeah, yeah.
In this economy,
Oh.
Yeah, so that one didn't get very many chuckles, unfortunately. The clerks got a kick out of it.
like, haha, this one's a
yeah.
secretary banger.
Yeah, exactly. And then we were in a media availability, a little press meeting with the Senate, with some senators, and they said to me, we're really struggling with this budget. We're going to have to extend the session. And I'm going on vacation.
I know. I was
a few days
honestly,
afterwards, so
that's
I'm
just
like,
mean, kind of.
I bought it
The
completely at
session's
first.
already-
Did your stomach just
like-
start hurting?
Yes.
You're like, oh.
I was like, oh God. To be honest, in the moment, I was like, I'm still going on my vacation.
You're like,
Bye.
I have a non-refundable ticket,
Yeah,
you guys.
100%.
Gotta go.
So,
That feels like a mean boss
Yeah,
joke.
that's gonna be
kinda.
people are triggered. They're like, this
I
has
just-
happened.
Yeah.
yeah, I just was not looking at his face because I was recording audio. So I was diligently looking at my
Doing your job.
levels, and I got so freaked out. But apparently nobody else bought it because he was smiling as he said it.
I
So
wish you would have been like, what?
I kind of was.
No.
I have a vacation and I am going on it.
I have audio of this whole interaction.
That's so funny. Love it.
Well, we'll share some of these, I think, on social
Yes.
media as well, if you missed them. Okay, we're going to take another break and then wins and fails of the week.
Get ready for Netflix's gripping new medical drama, Pulse. Set in a cutting-edge Miami trauma center, third-year resident Dr. Danny Sims is unexpectedly thrust into a promotion when beloved Chief Resident Dr. Xander Phillips gets suspended. Then, with the emotional and physical stakes at their highest, a storm will push the hospital and its residents to their limits. Witness how life can change in a heartbeat when you're operating under pressure. Watch Pulse, only on Netflix.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
And we're back. It's time for our wins and feels of the week. Rocky Mountain highs and lows, things that ruled, things that sucked. Olivia, you want to start with your fail?
Yeah, so I teased at this earlier, but my fail, I read this from my friend Elliot Winsler at the Post. She reported that Denver is increasing police presence downtown, including a mounted horse patrol to boost safety.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna add a 10 officer unit to patrol the area on foot, bicycles, and motorcycles. And there's gonna be like a total of 20 of them down there. And they're also gonna have a new DPD kiosk.
This is the best part.
At 16th and Arapahoe. So I don't know.
So you can get your mochi ice cream at the kiosk
Get
and then
your
you can
donuts.
walk down to the next kiosk and say hi to a police officer.
Yeah,
A police cup of coffee.
I'm just
know,
curious.
Best coffee in Denver.
Coffee and donuts.
I'm curious about the kiosk, like, are there gonna be lanyards? Like, what's going on here? Fridge magnets? Like, I don't know what we're doing. Tabling? I don't know what we're doing there. Also,
merch. You're wondering
the
what
merch
the
tent?
DPD merch game looks like
I
downtown?
mean, I assume, what else do you do at a table? But, like,
True.
also,
Pamphlets.
there are a lot of questions.
There are. Lucas, what's your fail this week?
Mine is a little bit more nerdy, but still policy related. It's more just than just this week. Since this is my first time, I think the vacancy process at the Colorado State Capitol is really problematic or potentially problematic.
Can you give us a too long didn't read for folks who don't know what
exactly?
the vacancy process
Let me
is?
make this. So this is the process when your state senator or state representative resigns. This is the process that fills that seat. So this is your representation in the state
the person
legislature.
that you elected, for instance, I think Chris Hansen got a job. He was elected.
Yes.
And then he got a job in the private sector.
Exactly. And
so
resigned.
his seat is vacant.
Right. He resigned right after the election. And what happens is the replacement is appointed by a small group of party insiders. And it just does not feel very democratic to me. And to a lot of people, there's a lot of push to change this. But it's also like, there's a lot of pushback about the burden of a local government putting on a special election to do this. And I know that it's complicated, but my first thought is like, this is a government's job to put on an election and to ensure that there's representation.
But my frustration comes in with the elected official that made this decision. Like,
Right.
you made the serious decision to run, to invest in folks' trust, to elect you. And then you're like, bye, I'm getting paid 4 times as much to go work in the private sector. See you later.
Timing
Exactly.
is everything. Timing is everything.
Yeah. And
That's it. That's what it is, though, Olivia, is the timing of it sometimes feels very dirty to me.
yeah. And the lack of transparency. It's like, Chris Hansen definitely knew this job was a possibility before the election because it was days later.
You don't get a job like that in a
That's what
day.
I'm saying. Like, that feels so disingenuous to your constituency.
It does.
And then, like you said, it puts it in the hands of a select group of lawmakers to make a decision for you as this constituent.
Right. And I just don't think that it's fair at all. And there are ways around it. And we're one of the only states that has the system. So
Really?
there are, yes. Most states, like, for example, in Tennessee, if somebody resigns, yes, there will be someone appointed to fill the seat. But there has to be a special election within 60 to 90 days.
Wow.
Right?
An actual election.
An actual election. And, maybe it's not as high a turnout as it would be if it was a year later during the normal election. But,
These are lawmakers that are making decisions on your
and
behalf.
we need
as a
democratic
constituent.
representation. And regardless of all these things that problems with changing the process and all that, at the end of the day, perception is everything these days. And if the public does not have confidence in the democratic process, that's really all that matters at the end of the day at a certain level, right?
Yeah.
Because there's already such low levels of trust. Undermining it further whatever the technical issues are with it, really, really is important. So that's been bugging me.
Vacancy process.
Yes. So that's been bugging me. But there are good things happening at the legislature, too.
Mine is sort of legislation or legislator related. First, I was going to complain about Representative Brittany Petterson again having to bring her baby for the third time to Washington to vote because we can do everything remotely except allow people to vote. And I applaud her for doing this, but she's a 4-month-old baby, and like she has to put on this whole crazy show just to show how ridiculous it is that she can't do something that we all can. I mean, think about how we vote in Colorado. We all get to vote by mail.
It's so crazy.
If we choose.
When I moved here, it was like I was like, oh my God, I'm just mailing my vote. Like, it's
because
crazy.
we have a safe
It's
process
so easy.
for
It was
doing
so
that.
easy.
Think about all the stuff we put into the internet, our social security numbers, all these things when we pay bills through healthcare. Like all of this information is going that way. Like why can someone not call in a vote? Like it's crazy.
And at the legislature here, they do remote votes all the time.
Yeah.
And whether they're sick or on parental leave, variety of reasons, there's a huge screen right on the House floor projection that they have their Zoom squares on if they're remote. I mean, they don't do it all the time, but if they have to.
But it should be an option.
Yes, of course.
And it's just like, yes, you should be present in your job, but also her constituency is here, to be fair. And it is hard. They have to go back and forth to Washington. This is part of the job she signed up for. Absolutely. But like, also, she's a parent. And I think that is just very relatable and understandable as she still wants to do her job to the fullest extent. Can she miss a couple of votes in person? I don't see what we did everything else over Zoom.
The argument I saw like online, again, I'm constantly following the trolls, but like immediately what I saw to this was people are like, she's opening up the door for people to be able to remotely vote from a boat in Cancun.
Oh,
that's like,
please. That's the least. All I'm thinking about is how the disability community has been asking for these kind of accommodations for years. And that's what it is about, is access. And if that's what you're worried about, who are you who's in your mind when you
but
think
also
that?
Like, I mean, is there something inherently wrong with voting from a boat?
Oh, you're a boat person. Maybe this
But
is more
also,
about the relatability
what
of
if it's a rowboat?
being on a boat.
Yeah, maybe it's not a yacht. Maybe it's a canoe.
Yeah.
Come on. It's the people's canoe.
Yeah. And maybe they're in a lake in Colorado.
Yeah. It's not Cancun. It's just the lake is called Cancun.
Cancun Lake.
That wasn't my fail. I was just going to mention.
Oh, okay.
Wow. We jumped on it.
But my fail is still about legislation. In 2022, legislators passed a
You just
state
threw
law.
that one in there.
I did.
Okay, good.
I'm the host this week.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get to do the extra.
She's just doing the most.
I'm doing the most. But legislators on both sides passed a state law that made possession of small amounts of fentanyl a felony.
Yeah.
And as harm reduction folks and doctors predicted, the law had almost no impact on overdose deaths and may have actually discouraged folks from seeking treatment and sticking to other harm reduction methods, a recent study on this legislation found. So just a huge fail. I think we've talked about this. It's been in conversation for decades about how to deal with this, quote, war on drugs. And criminalizing folks is not getting us anywhere. And I just thought, man, they told you so, like Dr. Joshua Barocas, who we've had on the show before, told the Denver Post that he worries people might be afraid to stand in line for methadone, knowing they could face higher penalties if they have fentanyl on them. And I'm also just thinking about Lisa Rayville, my friend at Harm Reduction Action Center, who says over and over and over again, if shame and stigma and incarceration solve the problem, we would wrap this up by now. Like we would be done. And so it just makes me think too a little bit about, are legislators thinking about saving lives, or is this about criminalization?
Right.
Because we're clearly not catching people.
Yeah.
Or the right people, the right drug dealers. I don't know.
No, it's true. It's clearly a big problem. And this is a tough one at the state capitol because this isn't just Republicans that are for this stuff.
Brittany Petterson was a supporter of this.
Exactly.
Actually,
so, it's tough. It's a bit knee-jerk reaction sometimes, to these kinds of things, because those are the sort of the easiest, most stringent ways to crack down, seemingly, but it doesn't really work. And look what we're seeing, too. There's been an increase of overdoses this year. I mean, there's been people right outside the state capitol that have passed away from overdoses. And, and then there's not only that side of it, there's also so much resistance to other policies, like
This is one of those weird fights
Yeah.
where data kind of doesn't seem to matter.
No, it
like they can
doesn't.
show what works and what doesn't, and it's still about moral.
It's also
And
very
fear-
easy
to-
and fear-based.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also very easy to cherry pick data with this kind
Yes,
of thing.
True.
for
Being like,
sure.
hey, well, this one in New York,
Yeah.
look what we're seeing with the crime around it. But
Yeah.
they're not looking at some of the other data points with it or with other ones in other parts of the world or in other parts of the country. I'm sorry, I'm talking about overdose prevention centers.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about, which is a policy that failed at the state capitol.
Yes, you cannot buy drugs there, by the way.
Right.
With overdose
Correct.
prevention sites, you can't buy drugs. It is strictly about being able to do drugs in a safe space where you aren't alone so that
Exactly.
you don't die.
Exactly.
And that's really about it. And what they have found, also studies have found, is that when folks utilize those spaces, when the shame and the stigma is removed, they're more likely to do things like get treatment
Right.
or ask for help or, I mean, and
Get
and this,
information from the people there.
Yeah, which is also what, I don't know if I'm at the point where I understand why overdose sites are controversial anymore. But all I would say is with this legislation, I hope that this is a wake up call to say we've got to do something different.
I'm a bit cynical, and I've seen this
I know,
rodeo a few times.
Oh my God.
So
the rodeo's been going on since like the 70s.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's a tough one. It's it feels intractable sometimes.
It does. Okay, well, let's go to wins. Things that made us happy this week. Lucas, what do you have?
One real simple one to start with. There is a beautiful golden retriever named Pippin, who is Representative Karen McCormick, veterinarian from Boulder. He comes to the Capitol every day. He got a bath over the weekend. Pippin did. And so he was
Very
so
shiny.
fluffy
Luscious.
and soft and just in such good spirits when I saw him earlier this week, as usual. It just always makes my week. You can always go see him if you're at the Capitol. You know, he's up there. Her staff was off on Monday, and so she said that he was holding down the office
Oh my
for her while she was on the
gosh.
floor.
Love that.
So I just love seeing Pippin.
Nice little joy.
Oh, it is such a joy. It is such a joy. There's a few dogs at the Capitol that I like to see.
Yeah, I saw
Rep
that
Armagast
story.
has. Oh yeah, yes. Rocky Mountain PBS did a wonderful story with Jesse Paul from the Colorado Sun about dogs at the state capitol.
Oh, I missed this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
so cute.
Queso, Senator
so
Winter's
many.
dog.
There's a lot.
There's Peaches, Rep Johnson's dog. Rep Armagast is like 4, but I gotta say I do have a soft spot for Tyson, Rep Armagast pit bull, because he's black and white, just like my pit
Because
bull.
you're a pity guy.
Yeah, I am. So
It's very Colorado coded.
oh yeah,
The like dog,
For
like
sure.
we've got like so many dogs in the Capitol right
people
now.
are always like, you should bring your dog in, and we would have so much fun. He would have so much fun. Yes, you would have so much fun. He would have so much fun.
I have to work.
Have to work. Okay, I would get nothing done.
Yeah, a reporter isn't exactly like stationary.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So, and he's like going on 14. So he
Aw,
would be like, please let me
baby.
leave. Anyway, so yeah, dogs at the Capitol. Also less exciting, more boring and nerdy. The state budget. Don't fall asleep. I'm going to do this quick, but the state
Just don't
budget.
say Tabor. We'll all
Yeah.
pass out.
Oh, never mind. No, I'm just kidding. No, the state budget negotiations are going better than I thought. Look, there's still some hard stuff to do, but it looks like the proposal they came up with is to fill this massive $1 billion hole in the budget.
Yeah.
Doesn't touch Medicaid or much education funding at all.
Oh, that's good. Honestly, that's
And
nice to hear.
that's pretty
Yeah.
cool to hear.
Because this conversation has been very doom and gloom from the get. Is
Yeah.
like, what do we have to get rid of?
I mean, there's definitely some things that are going to be cut. They have to. There's nothing they can do. There's some painful things that are going to have to be cut. But K-12 funding and Medicaid funding is largely untouched.
Okay.
And that's going to prevent a lot of hardship from
I
a lot
like
of people.
That's a good win.
Rocky
Yeah.
Mountain High.
That is a
Yeah.
Rocky Mountain High. Olivia, you're Rocky Mountain High.
The new women's rugby team won their inaugural match.
This is what women? This is
The
Colorado.
the Denver Onyx.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
That is so cool.
And I don't know anything about how rugby works. I became aware of rugby with the whole like Ilona Maher Olympic situation, but I saw this and the picture. Their uniforms are hot pink.
Ooh.
I love it,
Oh my.
and they look
Oh my
so
gosh, that
happy.
is so cool.
Honestly, that's really all it takes.
I
A
have
little
been-
bit of good
I have been
merchandising and I'm in.
waiting for a good women's uniform. I feel like
Yes.
we are so shy from pink for women's uniforms because we're like, oh no, like don't want to make it too like
Right.
you know these are girls, so we're gonna put them in pink. But it's like, Can we reclaim the pink? It
I know,
looks
it's
so
like
good.
some
It looks
girls
amazing.
I love pink. I'm a Barbie
look-
girl.
Yeah, no, these girls look awesome. They won. They dominated, according to the Denver Post. They won 63-7,
Hey,
which like
another team to be paying attention to.
Okay,
We've got
women's
some great
sports.
energy around women's
also,
sports right
yeah,
now.
women's sports
yeah.
in Denver. Let's go.
I mean, isn't there a new bar that's just
Yeah,
women's
the
sports?
Yes.
A new women's
Oh my
sports
God,
bar?
now I know, but I
99er.
don't remember what it's called, but yeah, we've.
I have not been there
women's
yet, but
sports
I've been wanting to go.
It sounds great.
Yeah.
This is great
Love
all
it.
around.
I know.
I love
Fun.
it.
I love ending on this.
I know.
I'm feeling great.
The 99ers.
The 99ers.
I'm
Okay,
gonna head
that's
it
the
up.
bar?
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Okay, well, I'll close this out. I just wanted to talk about some unadulterated queer and trans joy and the folks that are bringing that to my community and this community here in Denver. My friends run this space that's sort of an arts community collective called Rainbow Dome. And they're currently raising funds to update and renovate their space in Sun Valley. They're a giant queer roller rink.
Oh my gosh.
But they do all kinds of fun stuff. They do film screenings, they do live concerts, they do vendor markets of queer artisans.
What's it called again?
It's called Rainbow Dome. It's on Federal, and they've secured this amazing, huge building, but it needs a lot of work. And so my friend Theron is one of the co-founders of Rainbow Dome, and I met Theron many, many, many years ago when we were at a show at Rhinoceropolis, and they've been an artist for a long time, and I just love seeing somebody see something that they want and make it. And that's what Theron and this group of artists has done. My friend Janae runs the Rainbow Dome social media. If you don't follow them, she puts together these great posts too, just like about queer history, folks that you maybe didn't know about.
Cool.
So it's like
That's
this
awesome.
educational, fun. It's just a great group of folks, and they're trying to raise money to make this all ages, all welcome, open space for roller skating. Also, it's all levels and all abilities. So they have like things that can help you skate and stand up if you've never skated before.
Oh, wow.
I've skated many times, but I think I still need that.
I just sold
Yeah.
my roller skates on Facebook Marketplace.
Well, you could probably rent some at Rainbow Dome if you want. So I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to support their effort. But they're just raising money to create their cool queer space.
Awesome.
Fun.
So, well, Olivia, Lucas, this was so fun.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Thanks, you guys. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. Our producers this week were Olivia Jewel Love and Selena C.A. Reynolds. Adam Sage edits the video for YouTube. McKenna Harford writes our morning newsletter, Hey Denver. Abby Madigan runs our social media. I'm Bree Davies, your host. Our music is by Los Mogochetes with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube at CityCast Denver. And tell Pippin, the golden retriever, about us next time you see him. You can
I
sign
will.
up for our daily newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. See you next week.
Stanley. What a good dog name. Yeah. Paco came with the name Francisco when he was we got him when he was 6 weeks old from the streets of Harlem. So he's also a New Yorker.